Cherries' start to the season was overshadowed more by events off the pitch than on it. As candidates were lined up for the vacant manager's position, boardroom tension over the club's ownership reached breaking point. A committee of John Williams, Mark Morris and Sean O'Driscoll took charge of the first game at Wrexham.
No manager, no completion of the takeover and no points for Bournemouth, though last season's top scorer Steve Cotterill brought the best out of Wrexham early on. 5 Bournemouth players were booked, including Steve Fletcher, for an off-the-ball incident in the area. The result, a 2-0 defeat for Bournemouth.
Blackpool were the first league visitors to Dean Court, and they took an early lead when Tony Ellis fired in a shot which gave Neil Moss no chance. The Cherries looked to be on course for their second league defeat, but a superb header from Steve Cotterill put them back on level terms. But Ellis hadn't finished. The Blackpool striker was on hand again in the second half to nod home the winner. Bournemouth 1, Blackpool 2. On to Rotherham, where Bournemouth started well, but minutes into the second half, it all went terribly wrong. Sean Goater put the Yorkshire side into the lead, then Andy Hayward made it 2. Another lapse in defence allowed Goater to steal the ball and make it 3, and in the dying seconds, Morris put the ball into his own net to complete a miserable day for the Cherries, which left caretaker manager John Williams calling for help, and quickly.
Bournemouth's misery continued tonight, as did that of their captain Mark Morris. His headed back pass lacked power, Sean Farrell accepted the gift, and as Morris tried to clear his line, he crashed heavily. Peterborough ahead, and Morris off with a damaged shoulder, adding to Bournemouth's growing injury list. In came Warren Aspinall and the first Bournemouth shot on target, bringing out the best in goalkeeper Scott Cooksey. From nearly hero to villain, at the other end Aspinall's attempted clearance got no further than David Morrison. Peterborough 2 up and worse to come in the second half. This tackle saw Russell Beardsmore sent off. And Peterborough's Morrison completed the torment as he bypassed goalkeeper Neil Moss to set up Ken Charlery. After the match, a small demonstration outside the ground as fans grow impatient for news of a new manager. Bournemouth 0, Peterborough 3.
They didn't have to wait long. Within days, former Cherries star Mel Machin was confirmed as the new manager.
I banged my head underneath the stand and I thought, well, that's not changed. Nothing's changed there. The offices have moved slightly. But, you know, there's nice people here, and I'm going to enjoy my time here, I know that.
As the new manager emerged from the tunnel to the applause of the Dean Court crowd, he must have known there would be tough times in store. 4 games, 4 defeats, bottom of the table. That difficulty was underlined when the game was just 11 minutes old. Scott Jordan's shot tipped onto the bar by Neil Moss, but the rebound fell to Paul Barnes. Things didn't look any better from the bench when York went 2 up. John McCarthy setting up Barnes for his second. By now, Bournemouth were in disarray, and the nerves of playing in front of the new boss were never more apparent than when Kevin Russell's back pass to Moss was cleared no further than the nearest striker. McCarthy recovered from his surprise to extend York's lead. The 2 faces of opposing fans told the story. There was a brief glimmer of hope when York's Paul Atkin handled the ball in the area. And Warren Aspinall put away the resulting penalty. But York restored their 3-goal advantage when Barnes got his hat-trick to make the final score Bournemouth 1, York 4.
We've certainly got a lot of work to do. You know, in the last third, I felt that we should be a little bit more brighter, and we weren't. That is, attacking-wise. And, of course, the goals are very stupid goals, which we've given away. I didn't think, for instance, that York really created the opportunities. I thought we gave them to them.
A new team photo today for the new team manager at Bournemouth, but Mel Machin needs a flash of inspiration with the club bottom of the second division and still without a point after another defeat at Stockport. New goalkeeper Ian Andrews kept his team in the game with a series of fine saves. Mel Machin was delighted with Bournemouth's performance, but it couldn't stop Kevin Francis scoring with just 5 minutes left. Final score, Stockport 1, Bournemouth 0. Just after the half hour, Warren Aspinall set a captain's example in Bournemouth's away strip of blue. He headed them into the lead. Only for Glenn Cockerell, the former Southampton player, to snatch an equaliser with just a minute to go before the interval. Orient then took the lead after Michael McElhatton lunged for the ball that got Mark Dempsey. Ian Andrews beaten from the spot by Colin West. Orient 2-1 up. But Bournemouth are fighters under Mel Machin. Chris Ledbetter a stirring reply to make it 2-2. Then another penalty decision. Cockrell making the most of it in the area as he ran into Sean O'Driscoll. Who barged who? Somehow the second spot kick of the game given by referee Steve Dunn. Scored again by Colin West with just 5 minutes left. Final score, Leyton Orient 3, Bournemouth 2.
With nothing to show from 7 games, it was vital to get something out of the home game against Chester. But the bad luck continued as Steve Cottrell was stretchered off for the rest of the season with damaged knee ligaments. To add insult to injury, Chester, who were also without a point, took the lead when Chris Lightfoot pounced on a desperate goalmouth scramble. But the Cherries fought back to claim their first point of the season, thanks to Chris Ledbetter's stunning effort 20 minutes from time. Something to cheer about at last, with more to come the following Saturday.
7 weeks into the season, light at last for Bournemouth. Russell Beardsmore's 5th-minute strike, putting them ahead against Cardiff. But Andy Scott's tremendous half-volley ensured it was level at the interval. Jason Perry's rash challenge on Sean O'Driscoll gifted Bournemouth the second, Warren Aspinall making it 2-1. Before this game, Beardsmore had never scored a league goal for Bournemouth. Now his tally's 2, clinching the win 12 minutes from time. Like the fans, Bournemouth's new chairman Ken Gardner will be happy, despite Cardiff pulling one back. Bournemouth 3, Cardiff 2.
Bournemouth got the best possible start at Hull. Celebrations for Warren Aspinall's 4th of the season. But the lead lasted just 5 minutes. Linton Brown launching himself for the equaliser. Rob Dewhurst climbed higher than everyone to head Hull into the lead. And early in the second half, Hull got their third. Graham Atkinson scrambling the ball home. And that 3-1 defeat leaves Bournemouth on the same points as Chester at the bottom of Division 2.
The away day misery for the Cherries continued at Shrewsbury, where the home side's first goal was well executed. A brilliant back heel was finished off with an accurate shot from Mickey Brown. Wayne Clark scored twice after the break to seal the win. The second, the best of the two. Final score, Shrewsbury 3, Bournemouth 0. But some prophetic words from former AFC goalkeeper Fred Davis, who backed Mel to turn the tide. Former manager David Webb was less encouraging after his Brentford team won at Dean Court, courtesy of a single goal by Nick Forster. Later in the season, he will be made to eat his words.
Bournemouth are still rooted at the foot of the table. Bradford in blue are near the top. Chris Kamara put the Yorkshire team in front, and Paul Jewell extended their lead. But a Scott Mean penalty led Bournemouth back into the game. Straight after the interval, Bournemouth were level. Mean's free kick, converted by Mark Morris. But Bournemouth's joy was short-lived. Richard Huxford scored Bradford's winner. He was later sent off. Final score, Bournemouth 2, Bradford 3. 4 minutes gone at Huddersfield. The Bournemouth goalkeeper Ian Andrews committed out of his area. The gulf between the second division's top and bottom club was showing. Andy Booth, the scorer. Midway through the first half, the Bournemouth defence couldn't claim the ball, but Ronnie Jepson could. Huddersfield 2 up. Second half, Pat Scully flighted his header to perfection, Huddersfield in command. At least the goal of the game came from Bournemouth and Steve Jones, but it wasn't enough to stop his team falling to their 12th defeat in 14 games. Huddersfield 3, Bournemouth 1.
At the Goldstone, Scott Mean of Bournemouth gave Brighton's teenage keeper Stuart Kerr an early greeting in his first match since moving from Celtic. But then so did his own fullback, Colin Pates. Soon after came Steve Foster's clash of heads. He's fractured his cheekbone and has undergone surgery this afternoon. He'll be out for at least 6 weeks. Bournemouth then piled on the pressure. Steve Jones showing why Bournemouth want to make him a permanent signing from West Ham. After the break, it was Bournemouth under siege as Frank Stapleton applied the pressure. The veteran striker on a match-by-match contract and on as sub. He showed he's lost none of his guile. There were a host of chances for Brighton, This one for Kurt Nogan. But Ian Andrews, the Bournemouth keeper, had their measure. The game ended Brighton 0, Bournemouth 0.
Bournemouth started brightly against Cambridge United, twice forcing their keeper into action early on. First of all, Steve Robinson denied by John Phelan. And an impressive run from Steve Jones brought another good chance. The striker's expected to make his loan move from West Ham permanent this week. But once Cambridge had weathered the storm, they began to get on top. Jody Craddock should have put away their best first-half opportunity. The referee saw no foul. 9 minutes before the break, Jones again went close. He caught the shot superbly. His aim was off, but Robinson had better luck a quarter of an hour into the second half, hitting a winner for Mel Machin's side. 4 points from the last 2 games now. Final score, Bournemouth 1, Cambridge 0.
A morale-boosting goalless draw for Bournemouth against high-flying Birmingham. Goalkeeper Ian Andrews was their hero, making a string of fine saves. This was only the Cherries' second point on their travels. They're still bottom of Division 2, but a run of 5 games without defeat gives them renewed hope of escaping relegation.
The good run came to an abrupt end against Oxford. The Cherries fell behind 10 minutes before the break when John Burns' looping header caught out Ian Andrews. And the Bournemouth keeper was struggling again in the second half. Guy Butters, on loan from Portsmouth, out-jumping Andrews to put Oxford 2 up and top of the division. Bournemouth remained rooted to the bottom. And there wasn't much fun at Blackpool either, despite Steve Jones putting the Cherries ahead after just 85 seconds. Within 15 minutes, Steve Ellis had equalised for Blackpool. Then Neil Mitchell struck to put the home side 2-1 ahead. Alex Watson received his marching orders for a horrible tackle, and Ellis scored again late on to seal a 3-1 defeat for Bournemouth. Machin's young players had to come of age, and soon.
Bournemouth began well against Wrexham on Friday night. Brian Hughes heading into his own net to put the Cherries in front. But Hughes made amends before the break, his shot deflecting past reserve keeper Neil Moss to make it 1 apiece. 10 minutes into the second half, Moss earned himself an early bath for a diabolical challenge. No one could argue with the decision. The Cherries left with YTS trainee David Wells in goal. And Wells was soon fishing the ball from the back of the net. And it was no surprise when Gary Bennett made it 3. Problems piling up for the Cherries. Bournemouth 1, Wrexham 3.
The 5th defeat in a row at Bristol Rovers on Boxing Day ensured that any Christmas prayers went unanswered. But a 1-1 draw with Crewe Alexandra with a great strike by Russell Beardsmore at last put the Cherries into double figures. But it had taken 22 games to amass 10 points and 17 goals. The New Year weekend proved to be a turning point. Bournemouth played some of their best football of the season and took the lead against high-flying Wycombe Wanderers through a Steve Robinson diving header. But they were cruelly robbed of a richly deserved win when Wycombe equalised right on 90 minutes. The first game of 1995 saw Swansea take the lead at Dean Court when John Hodges' cross eluded everyone, including Ian Andrews. Steve Fletcher's first goal of the season got Cherries back into the game, and Fletcher quickly added another, latching on to a Mark Morris flick from a free kick. Swansea substitute David Penny seemed to have spoilt the party by making it 2-2, but Adrian Pennock's second goal in 4 games got the new year off to a bang. Cherries were off the bottom. Now, the only way was up. Up north, as it turned out, for a fighting 2-1 away win at Bradford City, where Jason Brissett laid on the first goal for Robinson. A few minutes later, Chris Ledbetter scored from the spot after Brissett was sent flying in the area, and it was almost 3-0 as City were opened up. Bradford pressed hard in the closing stages and pulled one back, but the Cherries held on to move up another place in the table. The largest crowd of the season turned out for the home game with Plymouth Argyle, and there was plenty of enterprise from the Cherries. Dean Court erupted when Jones scored 2 minutes from the end, but the goal was disallowed. However, 8 points from 12 had other teams starting to look over their shoulder.
Cambridge shook the Bournemouth defence when they took the lead after just 4 minutes. The corner flicked on by skipper Danny O'Shea for Steve Butler. Bournemouth responded well with some good attacking moves, but had to wait until the second half for Adrian Pinnock to level the scores. But Butler was out to spoil the Bournemouth revival and put Cambridge ahead again with his 15th goal of the season. Cambridge must have thought they had it wrapped up, but 2 minutes into injury time, Bournemouth's determination paid off. Substitute Mike McElhatton making the final score Cambridge 2, Bournemouth 2.
Huddersfield in white broke the deadlock and sent Bournemouth fans into a rage. For all the world, Ronnie Jepson looks offside, but a closer view shows that when the ball is delivered into the box, the last line of the Bournemouth defence is Robert Murray. He's also level with Jepson, and that means the Huddersfield scorer is onside. When Murray does push up to play the offside trap, it's too late, and Jepson is free to score. Huddersfield's second, definitely a goal though, definitely a deflection to wrong-foot Ian Andrews. Final score, Bournemouth 0, Huddersfield 2. Bournemouth went to Oxford and took them apart. Steve Jones led the charge. His pace made sure that his name was on the Bournemouth score sheet. And within 2 minutes, his ability to create chances ensured Steve Fletcher joined him there. It was 2-0 at half-time, and Oxford didn't look like a team pushing for promotion. Jones's perseverance always posed problems. His initial try was thwarted, but his calmness finished the job. 3-0 to Bournemouth. They're now fourth from bottom of Division 2.
Machin's call for home rule didn't allow for the weather in the derby game with Brighton and Hove Albion.
Referee Steve Dunn decided the game would go ahead, though both managers voiced their concern about the state of the pitch. Brighton's Liam Brady also praised his side's tenacity in the conditions. It showed with their first goal, scored by Brady's man of the match, Jeff Minton. Bournemouth had their chances, Steve Jones always a threat. But Stuart Miles' run and Minton's finish gave Brighton a secure footing in the mud bath. For Minton, his fourth goal in 5 games. Brighton 2 up at half-time. On the restart, the game decided in 5 minutes. Bournemouth couldn't take their chances, Steve Fletcher wide, Steve Jones over the bar. But Brighton were on target, Junior McDougall scoring his 8th of the season.
A disappointing defeat at home, but on February the 18th, the Cherries finally put down their jinx team, Plymouth Argyle, thanks to a goal from Michael McElhatton. For the first time, the Echo posed the question on everyone's lips. Is the Great Escape really on?
Bournemouth gave their fans a night to remember with this win. Steve Jones claimed his first goal at Dean Court since his move from West Ham. Birmingham had their chances, but goalkeeper Neil Moss was determined not to let anything past. The big spending Midlands club threw everything at him, but Moss was up to it. He kept a clean sheet going into the break. Bournemouth's continued determination paid off in the second half. Jones was tripped in the penalty box. It was Scott Mean who stepped up for the spot kick. He made sure with the rebound. Birmingham's hopes were revived when Kevin Francis grabbed his 4th goal in 5 games, but the score remained Bournemouth 2, Birmingham 1.
You can see certainly, you know, the spirit that's going in the club. For instance, when we score and, you know, the jubilation which goes all the way around too, and that supporters too. I think they're realising and they can see that things are happening here. And we've got a major task, of course, of getting out of a dodgy situation, but I think we can do it.
Bournemouth can't afford any home losses, but fell behind to Hull City after just 8 minutes. 6'5" Ian Ormondroyd, the scorer. The second division strugglers managed to get back on level terms 3 minutes later. Steve Jones continuing his impressive run of form. But having tamed 6'7" Birmingham striker Kevin Francis in midweek, the Cherries' defence was cut down to size by Ormondroyd, who scored his 2nd of the game after 20 minutes. Again, Bournemouth responded, Adrian Pinnock scoring the 4th goal of the contest just 7 minutes later. But the final goal in a thrilling first half went to Hull. Neil Mann, the scorer, and this time the Cherries couldn't come back. They remain deep in relegation trouble. Bournemouth 2, Hull City 3.
Cardiff took the lead against Bournemouth when Carl Dale got the last touch. But Bournemouth didn't let their heads go down. Jason Brissett let fly with a free kick. The crossbar withstanding his assault and Steve Jones' follow-up. But the equaliser came seconds later, Steve Fletcher's 4th goal of the season. Cardiff 1, Bournemouth 1.
Three days later, a moment's loss of concentration saw Cherries give battle in vain at York. And another team of Tykes from Rotherham proved hard to beat on March the 11th.
Rotherham were the visitors to Dean Court. Bournemouth continued to pick up points in their bid to stave off relegation, but they left it late on Saturday. The Yorkshire side took the lead with just 13 minutes to go. Sean Goater left with time and space to beat Ian Andrews. But the Cherries salvaged a point a minute from time when the keeper fumbled a free kick and Mark Morris knocked in the loose ball. Final score, Bournemouth 1, Rotherham 1.
Bournemouth keeper Ian Andrews did have a great day. His contribution kept Peterborough at bay throughout the game. Unfortunately, the forwards couldn't oblige with goals, while these Andrews heroics were keeping them out. Final score, Peterborough 0, Bournemouth 0.
Stockport County didn't draw much of a crowd, but this was a game Bournemouth had to win, and Steve Fletcher provided the ideal start. In the second half, the Stockport keeper failed to collect under pressure from Mean, and Steve Jones pounced on the loose ball to make it 2-0. With other results going Bournemouth's way, Machin was backing his young guns to save Cherries from the drop.
As Bournemouth engineered their escape from relegation, they needed to beat the bottom club, but Chester and Peter Jackson scored first. Bournemouth, though, did scrape a precious point out of the game, Steve Fletcher scoring for the second game in a row. Final score, Chester 1, Bournemouth 1.
The Orient Express was already heading for the 3rd division, and Cherries had no intention of getting on board, despite the visitors rattling the bar early on. A long throw began a move which had the Orient defence in trouble, and as the ball bounced around the area, Adrian Pennock lashed the ball home. In the second half, Steve Fletcher nodded the ball into the danger area, and Matty Holland stormed in with a strike that had the Dean Court faithful in raptures. Plymouth and Cambridge could only manage a draw in what was becoming the mother of relegation battles.
2 penalties earned Bournemouth victory over Wickham. Scott Mean took both of them. His goal tally for the season rose to 4. Another 3 points for Bournemouth in their fight against relegation. A bad afternoon for Wickham made worse when their manager, Martin O'Neill, was booked and ordered from the dugout for persistent comments from the bench. Bournemouth 2, Wickham 0.
Crewe are looking to get out of Division 2 at the other end of the table. Their win over Bournemouth helped move them into 5th place in the division. Wayne Collins got there first, and although Bournemouth battled, it was all over 6 minutes from the end. Fran Tierney finished the job. Crewe 2, Bournemouth 0.
Crewe proved to be a bridge too far, but old boy Joe Parkinson was backing Cherries all the way.
Bournemouth took the lead when the Bristol Rovers goalkeeper could only punch the ball as far as the Cherries skipper, Mark Morris. It was his 4th goal of the season, and Bournemouth's victory was sealed when good work from Steve Robinson set up Scott Mean. Bristol Rovers are pushing for promotion, but despite pressure to the end, couldn't find a way past the goalkeeper Ian Andrews. At the final whistle, 2-0 to Bournemouth. The players helped by more than 7,000 fans packed into Dean Court.
With 3 games to go, Swansea struck a killer blow to Cherry survival hopes. Now they would have to beat Brentford away.
I think we've shown that since Christmas that we're a good side, and hopefully we can top it off by saying that. It will be a tough game. Obviously they're going for the championship, but I think we've got every chance of going there and getting something.
Success at Brentford, sweet for manager Mel Machin. Now welded together, homegrown talent and shrewd signings like Ian Andrews, the former Southampton keeper, who kept them in the match. Second half, a good Bournemouth youngster Scott Mean found half a chance, and at distance, he took it. But Brentford are one of the class sides in the second division. They have their eye on the title, and Paul Abrahams would push that claim with an equaliser. The Cherries before Christmas would have wilted, not now. Steve Jones poached the winner out of nothing. Machin worked hard to lure Jones from West Ham, another piece of business which has paid interest and brings Bournemouth to the verge of a great escape.
Just after the match, the news came through that Cambridge had drawn with Huddersfield. Bournemouth were out of the relegation zone for the first time all season, and their destiny was now in their own hands. The fans sang praises to Mel Machin. The last game of the season saw queues forming outside the ground several hours before the kick-off, and there was a party atmosphere inside Dean Court as almost 11,000 spectators turned up to support the Cherries. Anybody and everybody wanted to be involved, to be able to say, I was there, on a night seldom seen in the club's history. Almost from the kick-off, Cherries were on the attack, with Steve Jones making the first of many penetrating runs into the box. Mel Machin's young Braves were wasting no time in taking the game to Shrewsbury. A foul on Russell Beardsmore gave Scott Mean an early chance to test the Shrewsbury defence, and his flighted free kick was only half cleared as the Cherries battled for every ball. Jason Brissett was in outstanding form and giving the Shrewsbury number 2 a night to forget. His run and cross, flicked on by Robinson, gave Jones the first real chance of the game. With 7 minutes gone, Andrews' drop kick was headed on by Fletcher and Brissett set off on another tantalising run. This time he got round the fullback and his low cross found the boot of Steve Robinson to give the Cherries just the start they wanted. Brissett was proving too tricky to handle, and he soon earned another free kick in a dangerous area. Mean picked out Russell Beardsmore, but his shot beat everyone, including the crossbar. If the manager was looking a little tense, it certainly wasn't showing on the pitch, where the Cherries were blitzing the Shrewsbury defence. The visitors couldn't get out of their own half, and with only 13 minutes on the clock, Jones broke free and sent a dangerous ball into the box, which was only half cleared. Scott Mean accepted the opportunity to the delight of Dean Court. The game was all cherries now as they looked for the goal that would seal the match. It wasn't long in coming. 7 minutes later, and Steve Jones moved into overdrive with a surging run and blistering shot, which was too hot for the Shrewsbury keeper to hold. Robinson followed up to make it 3-0, and it was all over bar the shouting. In the second half, Shrewsbury tried to make a game of it, but Ian Andrews was in no mood to let it slip. After being in the relegation zone all season, the Cherries shut up shop to ensure they stayed in the second division. Everyone was waiting for the final whistle on a season that went from agony to ecstasy. Against all odds, Cherries had pulled off their greatest escape, thanks to Mel Machin, his heroic players and the loyal supporters of AFC Bournemouth.
Said all along it's going to be a long, hard season. Saturday was brilliant. Tonight put the icing on the cake. We've done it against all the odds, and to be fair, if it hadn't been for me, they probably wouldn't have stayed up anyway. But no, I don't know. Honestly, everyone's done brilliantly. Not just the players, the management, the coaching staff. You're looking at people who work and do the kits and everything. The whole place has stood behind each other when when everything was against us. We've all pulled through it, stood together as a tight family, and come through it. It's been brilliant.
We needed a good start, and I think that settled us down. If we hadn't scored, we might have been panicking a bit. But early goal done us good, and we done well in the end.
Just one. I mean, you got three very, very quickly, didn't you?
I know, one would have done us, but I think three really settled us down. We never actually played the football we wanted to because much pressure we were under that tonight. But at the end of the day, we got a result we wanted.
The goal, talk me through that.
Steve Jones I think he's had a shot from long range, and the keeper's he's made a mistake, and lucky enough was just falling in, simple tapping. But can't complain.
A little bit of relief, of course. Well, a lot of relief, and just to show that the lads themselves have got their just rewards. I didn't really think that they deserved to go down.
The two goals came very quickly, one after the other, didn't they? I mean, that must have settled the team down and everything else.
Not only the team, me also, and 10,000 or 11,000 people which came to this evening. In actual fact, it may have killed the game, because it was all dead and buried then. I'm not bothered about that.
The support was unbelievable, and I was like a cup final. It was like we've been promoted, so everyone's well happy. Might even have a few drinks tonight as well.
Absolutely fantastic. I can't believe it. And if we'd have lost, we'd all been saying what a load of rubbish. But absolutely fantastic. Brilliant.
Fantastic. Can't believe it. 9 points since Christmas, and the finish on 50 is great.
Best performance I've seen all season. And we deserve to stay up.
My reaction to the result is absolutely brilliant. And it's going to cheese a lot of people off in Bournemouth because they didn't want us to stay up, and we have. These boys, absolutely brilliant. Played shreds apart all through the season. Orman away. They're the boys. Made a lot of people happy.
Well, that's the end of one of our most exciting seasons ever. We're on our way up, so why don't you come and join us? Come and buy a season ticket and you can come with us all the way next year. See you next season.